This episode is rated M for mature audiences. The views and opinions expressed on this show are those of the speaker and do not necessarily reflect those of the PFC Entertainment Network.
This is the Pure Fury Creations Entertainment Network.
I'm Jason Klaus. And over the course of my life, I've done a lot of different things, and I've worn a lot of different hats. But this may be my greatest endeavor yet. On this show, we are going to focus on life. We are going to focus on the basic fundamentals. We are going to focus on the silver lining. Because no matter what happens, no matter what is thrown our way, there is a silver lining. There is a lesson to be learned. Sometimes we just have to look a little bit harder, a little bit deeper for it. That's what this show is all about. Sometimes it's going to be rough, sometimes it's going to be raw, sometimes it may be hard to listen to, but it's something that you need to hear. This just got real.
And now, the Pure Fury Creations Entertainment Network presents its flagship show, the Klaus to the Heart podcast. Here is your host, Jason Klaus.
And we welcome you to the flagship show of the PFC Entertainment Network. You're listening to the Klaus to the Heart podcast. I'm Jason Klaus. We certainly appreciate you tuning in here this week. And I try not to focus, how do I want to word this? It is pretty well known how I feel about resolutions, because as this show drops, it is the last week of January. And as I mentioned last week on the show, there is a significant percentage of people who set New Year's resolutions and have abandoned them at this point. And I had a conversation last week with a buddy of mine, and we were talking about the premise, the whole thing about resolutions and why people to this day will put a lot of stock in that, and their intentions are good. I mean, their intentions are, you know, when they're making them, they're like, this is going to be my year to do this, that, or the other thing. And during the course of the conversation, and as I've said many times on this show, I don't do resolutions, I set goals. And we got into, you know, a lengthier than I expected conversation on what the difference was from his perspective as well as mine. You know, why do I feel this way, and why he is more of that, you know, he falls more under the resolution tag. Doesn't dismiss what I'm saying, but like his mindset is he's leaning towards that. And I can respect that, because like I said, even though there is a significant amount of people that have abandoned that resolution, there is another percentage of people, albeit on the minority side of the scale, in terms of numbers, it's, you know, they're still doing it. You know, they're in it. Like, they have that mindset that they are going to achieve this resolution. So I started to think about it, and very timely, this thing, this meme of sorts popped up on my timeline, and I was like, okay, being a sign guy, I'm like, well, this is obviously something that's meant to be talked about on the show here. So what we're going to do here this week, and I realize, you know, we're still There's still 11 months in this year to make some pretty significant shit happen. You know what I mean? Um, so, for those of you who tune in that may have set what you deem to be a resolution, and for whatever reason it did not materialize, we're going to give you 5 things that you can do to either hit the reset button to make your resolution a reality, or to continue to inspire you as you embark on this particular journey. Now, I'm trying to keep, no, I don't even have to try it. Like, I understand fundamentally, I understand um, why resolutions is the key word in a lot of people's goal setting mindsets. But what my argument is this: the reason why, and I've mentioned this, but if you're tuning in for the first time at episode 258, you have a lot to catch up on. I haven't felt like, and maybe it's just a me thing. Could very well be just a me thing. I have, well, I know it's not. You know, reality tells me that it's not just a me thing. Resolutions give us a back door out at the first sign of conflict or a challenge or a wrench thrown in the works, something that's going to derail us. We become discouraged. We start to beat ourselves up on the inside more often than not, and it's like, no, this just isn't my year to do this. I'm just going to throw in the towel and we'll try it again next year. Why? Why? What makes you so goddamn sure that you're going to see this time next year? It's awful presumptuous if you're asking me. Funny for me to say that because I used to have that mentality. Oh, like the resolution thing, like I'm speaking from experience. This is what I did. This is how I responded. This is what I thought. I thought I had all the time in the world. I do not, and nor do you. We don't know when our number's getting called. And at this stage, I'm not sitting around waiting for doors of opportunity to open. I'm I'm kicking the sons of bitches in. So there is no wait till next year. Okay, if you stumbled out of the gate in January, there's nothing that says that February can't be your rebound. Perhaps you just have to look a little bit closer into your surroundings, into your circle, into leftover baggage that you're bringing into the new year from the previous one. Some of it is unavoidable. Some of that quote unquote baggage is all depending on what it is and what a stake it has in your life. You're going to have to carry that with you. However, you don't have to let it be the boulder that holds you down. You can, and there are several ways to rechannel that energy. Use that as motivation to allow your success to be the ultimate fuck you to whatever baggage is lingering. Okay. I realize that is easier said than done. But I'm also here to tell you that it can be done if you have the right mindset. Now, in order to get to the right mindset, the problem is oftentimes you're going to have to make some pretty hard decisions. You're going to have to reevaluate just about everything. You're going to have to establish boundaries. You're going to have to prioritize things. And if you are really 100% honest with yourself, you have to realize that the levels of success that you seek is going to be dependent on how much you prioritize yourself. And if these goals and these dreams and these resolutions, as it were, if they mean that much to you, you're going to have to prioritize yourself, and people are going to have to understand that. And if they don't understand that, then they're providing you a glimpse as to what you are in their lives on a very basic and fundamental level. This is the shit that people don't like talking about because they have to be honest with themselves, and they don't like what they hear because it is a stark contrast to the narrative that more often than not they try to portray, that they try to write for you. Because jealousy, whether it is on full display or it is low key, is an ugly, ugly, ugly bitch. And it will cause more problems than just about anything else. It will cause more damage within relationships and friendships and things of this nature than anything else. Sad but true. Because, you know what, let's just get into this. We'll get into this right now. 5 steps to make your New Year's resolutions your next year reality. And again, if your resolution that you set for 2025 has not materialized and you have all but abandoned that particular endeavor, perhaps this will hit the reset button in your brain. Get back on track on February 1 and use the next 11 months. And then you'll look back on January and be like, man, wait, what I almost lost out on because I stumbled out of the gate and gave up. The first thing you need to do is review your year, your previous year. Think about the good. If you think about the good, you notice the blessings that are truly in your life if you're being 100% honest with yourselves. Because it's real easy to feel sorry for ourselves when shit ain't going right. You know? It's real easy to focus on the negative because the negative is what's making the most noise. We sometimes overlook the blessings that are in our everyday, that are oftentimes right in front of our face. And we take it for granted. Until there's a time where we're met with, holy shit, it's no longer there for whatever reason. And then you take the bad. 9 times out of 10, out of every bad situation, there is a life lesson. A life lesson for you, a life lesson for how you conduct yourself, a life lesson for what you allow, a life lesson for what you entertain. Take all of that and bring it to the new year. Don't dwell on everything that went wrong. Think about what you learned in those aspects, in those scenarios, in those situations, in that unfavorable environment. You do a review and you realize what worked, what didn't, and what could be. Number 2, do you know where you're going? Do you have a specific destination in mind? And I don't necessarily mean a point on the map. I'm talking about your ultimate goal here. Do you know what that looks like? Or are you just one of those? And look, nothing says you have to have it all figured out. Christ, we talked about this last week. You don't have to have everything figured out in order to begin the journey. But at some point, you've got to have something that you're working towards. As outlandish as it may seem to everybody else, it doesn't matter what everybody else thinks. If everybody didn't do what they wanted to because they were worried about what somebody else thought, we wouldn't have near anything that we enjoy or utilize or incorporate into our day-to-day. You are going to find that during the course of your journey, there's going to be a variety of people that come across your radar. Some are genuine with pure intention, but more often than not, these people come with ulterior motives. Sometimes it takes a while for that to come to the surface, but it is a thing. I'll give you an example. I'll give you 2 examples from me personally to kind of put this in something of a visual or some degree of context. This network is the second chapter of my life in a public forum. I spent over 2.5 decades in the world of professional wrestling. And when I started my career as a promoter in professional wrestling and a performer, I had an ultimate goal. That ultimate goal was to be the #1 independent promotion in the state of Michigan. That was my goal. And whenever I relayed that, it was scoffed at, it was laughed at, it was told you it'll never be. That did not deter me from at least trying. Now, I didn't become the #1, I shouldn't pay me, let me back up. The promotion did not become the #1 wrestling company in the state, but it had established a following, a piece of the footprint, despite the fact that I didn't do things the quote unquote normal way. And it established a legacy, and more important than that, it changed people's lives for the better. To me, that means more than any monetary level of success I would have achieved had I been able to probably conform more to the establishment. And I realized that was a big part of my problem, but then and now I do not give a fuck, because more often than not, I don't agree with the establishment. I don't agree with the way it's done. But the fact that people's lives changed for the better, whether they were a part of the locker room or they sat in the chairs on the other side of the ropes, knowing that the company made that kind of impact is more meaningful than anything else. And that's why when the day came and I realized that this was no longer going to be a thing, I was at peace with it. And I remember having more than a couple conversations about, what closing the MWO was going to do to me. Now, at that time, I was already a couple of years into the podcast thing. The PFC network was being established. But I remember having a couple of conversations about, they were worried because wrestling had become such a huge part of my identity. They were worried about me. Like, can you really survive without being involved in the wrestling business? And here's the thing. I never forgot who Jason Klaus was. I was able to put him on the side burner and become Jason the Basher Klaus, which was very much tied into who I was to my core. I just turned the volume up, way up. A lot of people have a problem with that. When they leave the business, they forget who the fuck they are as a human because they got too wrapped up into the persona or the gimmick that they were in. And when you get so wrapped up in your gimmick, when you get so wrapped up in your fanfare, when you get so wrapped up in everything other than the foundation of what brought you to the dance, you don't have a vision. You're merely bouncing around like a fucking ping pong ball or a pinball, and the next thing you know, it drops into a hole and there are no more balls coming. I know it's a goofy analogy, but you don't have to know the specific destination that you want to be on, but you got to have an idea of where it's at. And then when you get there, you'll know it. But a lot of people, that's one of the determining things of what knocks people off their path. They lose sight. And they lose sight because of a number of things. A lot of it, like I said, they get so wrapped up in everything other than the foundation. They don't know. They can't see beyond the spotlight. Well, that spotlight only goes so far. Other ones, they get knocked off and they lose their vision because they listen too much to all the other naysayers, all the ones that tell you why you shouldn't do this. Or put those seeds of doubt in your mind. Are you really sure? And if you're somebody that, just stepping up to the plate was a significant victory unto yourself, because the premise of change is scary. That unknown. And if you get to a mindset where you're like, yeah, I'm going to do this, then you better damn well be all in. Because there will be those seeds of doubt that will come in. More often than not, it's because it comes from people who are going to be on the receiving end in a less than favorable for them manner of changes that are fixing to be made or in the process of being made. Number 3 is change your identity. Not some of you are gonna be like, what? You want me to go down to Social Security? No, calm down, relax. Change how you see yourself. Changing how you see yourself is going to be one of the biggest things that you can do to hit that reset button if you have thrown in the towel on this year's resolution. A lot of us deal with insecurity on some level. And there's a variety of reasons for it. Some of it is superficial. Some of it is because you put a tremendous amount of stock into columns and blogs and things of this nature that are written in magazines, written online, social media. You put a lot of stock in what experts tell you is acceptable or what is cool or what is in fashion or this, that, or the other thing. And while I realize that in this day and age, in our culture especially, that is kind of what steers the ship and what is deemed success. That shit never, like, I don't care whose logo or whatever is on my tag or on my clothing or anything like that. I have always had strong feelings about this. And listen, make no mistake about it. It's because of how I grew up. It was my experience. I got picked on all the time. And I just never, even in that shit, like I never put stock in anything that I deemed to be superficial. If it comes across my radar and I have some degree of fanfare for it, fine, fuck it, I'll entertain it. But if it doesn't register, it doesn't move the needle with me, I don't need it, and I'm certainly not going to invest in it when I have no personal investment into whatever it is. Just not. It's a waste of time. Even as a kid, that was very much, in the forefront of my mind. That's not what life's supposed to be about. That's not, to me, that's not what's important. Probably why I got picked on, and and it's not like I couldn't have the top of the line clothing. My parents would have done whatever they needed to make sure that we had all that shit. I mean, my brother did. He was very much a part of that. People, the way we see ourselves, when you are at the end of the day and you're looking in the mirror, what is your fundamental opinion of that individual that's looking back at you? Because that's where it starts. If you're not good with that person that's looking back at you in the mirror, everything else is starting off in the middle of the road. 50%. at best. Now, I don't know about you, but every time I am invested in something or I embark on something, I'm giving it 100%. I'm giving it everything I've got, because if I'm not, what am I doing it for? What is the point? When I'm already setting myself up for failure or at best mediocrity. Fuck all that. It took me a long time to get into that mindset. It took me a long time to snap out of that frame of mind where I had to please everybody first, and then I'll take whatever's left and focus on what I want to do. And I'm not saying don't be accessible. I'm not saying shy away on your responsibilities, your obligations. What I'm telling you is that it is okay, despite the 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 contrast in what you will hear. It is okay to prioritize yourself. It is okay to reinvent yourself. It is okay to finally bring that fire that's been burning inside you for the longest time and you haven't had the opportunity that you feel that you need to bring that out so that you can expand on something that you want to do, a goal that you have, a dream that you want to achieve. Why is it okay everybody else gets to achieve their dreams or do whatever it is that they want to do, and you're supposed to wait your turn? If you wait for your turn will never come. And then you're going to look back on so much regret, so many what ifs, so many what could haves. Is that how you want to look back on your life when you do a review of your life? Is that what you want? Is that what you want to look back on? A path of disappointments and what ifs? Now, I'm not saying whatever your resolution is isn't going to be difficult and it's not going to create some challenges. It's going to. It's supposed to. That's how you appreciate your levels of success. And more than that, if you're a decent person fundamentally to your core, it won't allow you to get so wrapped up in all the hoopla and the spotlight and the success and the fanfare and all this other shit, and to which it changes you as a person. More or less makes you an asshole. Because there's no fundamental respect for it. That's what it boils down to. You have to respect yourself enough to make you a priority. And this is going to lead to number 4. Improve your circle, your inner circle, your group, your clique, however you want to call it, whatever cute little name you got for it. Sometimes you don't need anybody. Sometimes, all depending on what it is, all depending on what your circumstance is, it's better to just put your head down, keep your eyes peeled, and just do it your fucking self. Because, a lot of times the most impactful moves make no noise at all until it's time for the reveal. Having an inner circle, and it's not about quantity, it is 100% about quality. Having an inner circle that you can count on, that you can depend on, that you can trust wholeheartedly is the most valuable tool you will have as you embark on your resolutions or your goals in your personal life or your professional one. Because if your inner circle is infected with disingenuous people with ulterior motives, it is going to do more damage. It is going to keep you held down. A lot of times it's going to pull you back a few steps. This is the part that gets shitty. This is the part that hurts. Because a lot of people, if you were to step back and look at the individuals who are in your inner circle, it comes down to a couple of questions here. The one that I ask is, how does my soul feel around this person? If there is any degree of consistent anxiety, could be on the most minor level, but if there is any hint, any speckle of anxiety, that is a weight on your shoulders. That is preventing you from moving forward as much as you possibly can. But you keep that because you fundamentally care about that individual. And I'm not saying, just turn everything off. Because they could be overall a very good person who has been with you through a lot of shit. But if there is one question mark, if there is one hint of anxiety or uncertainty, this individual can be a good friend or somebody that you look forward to. Like, I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is this is not the individual that should be within your inner circle. Your inner circle should be reserved for those people that you know without a shadow of a doubt is going to be there through thick and thin, through good and bad. Because they want to be, not because they have to be, not because you provide them something that enriches their lives, but when that role is reversed, they're not there to reciprocate. We talked about this as recently as last week. So you gotta look and do some serious evaluation on your inner circle. And if changes have to be made, changes have to be made. It's unfortunate, but it happens. That's life. What are you going to do? And finally, believe. Believe it is possible and believe in yourself. The first one, the first part of that, believe it is possible, is huge. Because if you don't believe it's possible, what are you doing? Why are you even entertaining it? Why are you wasting that time, effort, and energy? I feel like out of the gate, we do feel like it is possible. Otherwise, why have we set that resolution or that goal? But with, as you encounter challenges and setbacks and roadblocks and things of this nature, you start to question that. But this is going to test your resolve. This is going to test your determination. Ultimately, this is going to test how bad you really do want it. Are you willing to work for it? Are you willing to fight for it? Are you willing to go through the shit to get it? If the answer is no, well, then somewhere along the line, you have lost belief that it's just not possible. And you've really it's, there are circumstances that pop up that make it financially impossible, timely wise impossible. Like, I get that. And if it doesn't happen right now, who's to say it can't happen a month from now, 6 months from now, a year from now? Maybe focus on something else. But if you're throwing in the towel just because you were met with some degree of opposition, I got news for you, Jack. No matter what you do in life, you are going to be met with opposition. Doesn't matter what it is. In some way, shape, or form, there is going to be opposition. There is going to be disruption to your happiness and to your peace. Now, how you respond to that is going to be the telltale sign of who you are as a person and what your level of commitment and dedication and determination is in just about every facet, every realm of life. We can sit here all day long and point fingers and pinpoint why things didn't go our way. And if we're being 100% honest with ourselves, a lot of the reasons is going to be us, because we didn't believe in ourselves. We listened to the naysayers. We allowed the seeds of doubt that were planted previously, we allowed that bitch to grow. We start hanging on the wrong words because the wrong words echo the failures of familiarity. We know that. We know what that is. And even in the midst of chaos, there is a certain degree of comfort in what you know, even though it ain't good for you. Because you're worried about change. You're worried about how change is going to affect you. You're worried about how it's going to result, what it's going to result in. You've got to believe that you are worthy of being happy. You have got to believe that you are worthy of being successful. You have got to believe that you are worthy of the good that there is in this world. Don't listen to the ghosts of the past. Don't listen to those who question what you're doing because it's going to affect them in a negative manner on some level. Within your heart, within your soul, lies the most powerful tool on your journey. It's all you. You are good enough to have what you want. You are good enough to have what you desire. You are good enough to achieve the success that you want. You are good enough to realize your dreams. You've got to believe that. And anybody that tells you different are in your lives for the wrong reason. So with that, we are going to put a bow on this episode. Certainly appreciate you tuning in here. And if you have questions, comments, feedback, show topic ideas, anything of the sort, you can hit us up over on the Klaus to the Heart or PFC Network Facebook pages, or you can go to pfcnetwork.net, the official website of the Pure Fury Creations Entertainment Network, and check out the online store. We're just a couple weeks away from the big spring apparel launch that's going to be over at pfcstore.printify.me. So be sure to check that out. And with that, go out, be awesome to yourselves and to each other. We'll see you next week right here on the Close to the Heart podcast, the flagship show of the PFC Entertainment Network.